All right, guys, welcome back to the DreamState Livin Podcast, where our focus is Dharma, life path. And I love bringing people on that I feel are living in their Dharma. And today I have none other than the man, Christian McSweeney. Christian, welcome to the DreamState Livin Podcast, brother. How are we doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on here. Stoked.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about you and just catch the people up about McSween Dog.
Yeah, so let's do this. I just turned 28. I'm living in Southern California. For the past 5 years, I've been out here. When I first came out, I was really focused in music production and kind of took a big hiatus from that. One, for the financial aspect, and two, just because I needed some room to find myself. So I went to Europe, ran an Ironman race, biked from Amsterdam to Spain, and then when I got back, that's when I joined the solar industry. That's where you and I met, and did that for about 3 years. And then most recently, I've made probably the biggest dynamic shift while being in California by getting out of the sales industry, getting out of solar, and then just diving fully into the artistic life.
Oh,
And so I have a lot to talk about on that, but it's just taking that leap of faith of like believing in yourself, leaving any sense of comfort and stability to something that you don't really know if it's going to work out for you or not. So that's been like, comes with its own challenges and rewards and whatnot, but that's kind of like what I've been going through. But it's been a beautiful process for me so far, and I'm like stoked that I've been making this transition.
yeah, we're going to unpack a lot of that. And I was thinking whether I wanted to introduce you myself or have you do the introduction. I'm glad I did the latter because although we know each other quite well, I wouldn't have been able to explain you like you just did. So I'm really grateful that I had you do that. And I want to start here. So when I first met you, I don't know if you remember this, I was sitting in the yard, barefoot, I think,
Oh my God.
shirt off, dude, listening to Rufus the Soul, just vibing. And here comes this stud around the corner. And at that time, a lot of the new recruits, like, they were a lot younger. They were kind of like, they weren't you. And Josh was like, hey, this is the new guy. And you're like, yo, what's up, dude? Are you listening to Rufus or something? And we started to talk and we instantly vibed. And I felt like a really strong connection being created right there. And one thing you had told me that day that I won't forget is that you were kind of coming out of like a dark time or a really challenging time in your life. And now that you're saying that's when you kind of got back from Europe, and maybe I'm saying this wrong, but can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I let's see, where do I start? When I moved out here, I was on unemployment and I was focused really heavily on just making music. And I didn't have a job. I woke up every day, I was making music, started this duo with this guy, and things were going well, but then it just got really stale. I started dating my current girlfriend, Mads, who you've met. But as unemployment was running out and I didn't really have funds to like support myself or my girlfriend or even pay rent, like I got a job that was not really satisfying for me. So I was kind of just in this like dark place of, gosh, like I'm just not happy with who I am or what I'm doing. And so on top of that, I was living in a house with five other people where, I would get up at 6 a.m. to like go to my job, and they would be up until 6 a.m. partying and like
I
staying up late. So it just didn't really align with like who I was. And so what I did was I quit the job and I bought a one-way ticket to Tallinn, Estonia, and I trained for 6 months to run an Ironman race because that was the one thing that was going to keep me focused on like staying healthy, doing something that's good for my mental, physical, spiritual sense. And so I went and I did that, and it was a great soul searching activity. But when I came back, I was dead broke. And so um, that's when I got introduced to solar. And solar was the one thing that I really needed at the time because I just didn't really have the best work ethic. and I didn't have any money. And, you know, my girlfriend was like, you can't even take me out on a date. And there was just like this feeling of like, I'm not good enough for where I'm at. Even though I did like one of the coolest things I've ever done in life, like I wasn't doing anything that was good for like the longevity of like my life or my career or my relationships. And so I packed my bags, I went down to Dana Point, and I am grateful that our mutual friend Josh brought me in, because he was the one that really just instilled that discipline. And that's where I came in and I met you, and it was working 7 days a week for 10 plus hours. And that was just like the work ethic and the grind that I needed to really believe in myself and know that I'm capable of taking myself out of any situation. So
it seems like you had almost external turmoil, like you're going through this and the girlfriend's like, you can't even take me out on a date, other stuff here. How did that show up as internal turmoil though?
I mean, at the time, like I was probably like 22, 23, and I still haven't done at that time a lot of the spiritual work of like self-acceptance, or especially in a relationship, you have these fears and anxieties that like your partner is going to leave you for somebody better. And so when you hear something external almost bring up these fears that like I'm not good enough, it's like a gas to the fire of like I need to get my shit together, pardon my French. And so there were external factors and pressures that led to like internal like turmoil, but that was the thing that I needed to get me to move, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm curious, going back to, you were really artistic and you were focused on making music. You had this duo, and this was before Europe too, which I didn't know that. And then you run out of money, so you had to get a job. So while you got that job, did that take away a lot of like your creative instincts or work that you were doing because you needed to put this energy on the job? And is that why you were just like, I can't do this job, I quit, and that's when you went to Europe? Or
Yeah, and I would say where my creative energy kind of fell off was when I joined the solar. It just was it's what I needed, because the duo at the time, it's with my buddy Jake, and we had a really great project going, but for some reason there was something inside of me that it felt like work. It didn't feel like I was able to fully express myself. And so kind of just following the breadcrumbs of life, you know, I knew internally that my time in that duo was coming to an end, and it was also a time where I needed to focus on money. And so I handed the project off to him, and I took a step back from the creative process of making music, which I think it was a good thing, because at the time it genuinely felt like I was just doing work and I wasn't able to just like get any sort of creative expression out. And when you lose the play and the creativity, that's not really the point behind it. So it was a break that I really needed, and I think it all aligned at the right time, because during the time when I was in solar, taking a break from making music, I was really able to like find myself again. And having just like time away from something actually allowed me to return back to the creative process with way more energy, focus, force, and knowing myself to be able to express myself.
I feel like with that is going to be the best artistic expression ever as well, when you truly know thyself. Because if you're forcing it and you're just putting out work with this artistic expression, I mean, that's kind of just how you just get, it might be good, but it's not going to be great.
Yeah, and it was like, it came to the point where it was like, we were thinking of making music of what other people would like. And that's what bothered me, was I'm not trying to be a people pleaser when it comes to making music for other people. Like, I'm just trying to do what makes me dance in my studio by myself.
Fuck yeah.
In my underpants. You know, I don't care if anybody else is around. Like, I just want to make the groove for me. And if people like it, then that's what it's about, you know? I'm not doing it as a means to an end to become famous or to play at music festivals or go on tours. Like, that's not the point of art, in my opinion. like obviously you can set that as a goal for yourself, but like the whole point of expressing yourself isn't to get some sort of material reward at the end of it. It's just the act of creating itself. That's like the pleasure and the honor to be able to like tap into and do.
As you being such like an artistic spirit, can you sense when other artists are unauthentic?
In a way, yeah. I wouldn't say it's like the most in tune like radio frequency that I can see, but I know when some artists are genuine and I know when others are just doing it for like the ego. There's like the soul that's going to be their driving force, and then there's going to be the ego that's the driving force. And I mean, we'll just do like Kendrick and Drake for an example. Like, in my opinion, I think Kendrick is coming from more of like a soul perspective and Drake is more from an egocentric perspective. You know, you can just kind of see the music that they make, the vibe that they have, who they are as a person, how they involve themselves. Like, if they're in a podcast, what kind of conversations they're having. Like, Kendrick will talk about how he meditates every day on a podcast with Rick Rubin. And I don't think I've ever seen Drake on a podcast. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you can just kind of get the vibe from certain artists that some of them are more in tune with a higher frequency of like tapping into some spiritual dimension to express themselves, and others are just coming from like an ego standpoint, which, don't get me wrong, some of the ego music is like really good,
Yeah,
but
like you can think of Drake's music and it's catchy, right?
really good, you know, but it's like, who do I listen to more? Kendrick, because I feel like I just align more with his personality, you know? But so that was like the best kind of example that I could give.
Yeah, I like that too. And it's like as time goes on, you're gonna attract like your audience, and I think a lot more people are waking up to just more authentic messages and being able to kind of can tell what's authentic and what's not authentic. And as like when creators are coming up, it's like looking back at the Michael Jordan or the Oprah stories, they were just always authentically themselves, and they didn't have like this crazy success in the beginning. Michael Jordan got cut from his basketball team. Oprah always had trouble with weight loss, I think it was, but they're relatable, and I think that's what's beautiful about art as well, is when there's a little bit of relatableness to it. Excuse me, that word was tough. Relatableness.
And I think like a beautiful thing about art, and also like a scary thing as an artist, is you are putting like a part of your soul out into the world. And so one thing that was kind of making me hesitate on like sharing content is like I was so afraid of what other people were going to think, because it's a part of myself that like I put my heart, my soul, and my mind into, and you're just being incredibly vulnerable of sharing like who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And that can be like a really scary and daunting thing. And that's where you really have to learn how to navigate of moving past not caring about what other people think and just allowing yourself to just freely express yourself, no matter if one person sees a painting that I've done, or one person listens to a guided meditation or a song, or if 100,000 people listen to it or see something. It makes no difference. The art is the art, and it was created, and that's the most important thing. And I think it was Picasso that said, like, we're put here to share. I can't remember the exact quote. I'll look it up, but it's like, once you realize who you are and what your gift is, your gift to the world is sharing that gift. And so you have to put yourself out there once you know what it is that you want to do and what you're here for, your dharma.
Dharma. Yeah, that's freaking beautiful, man. And that's exactly like what this podcast was created for. It was that exactly, because we all have a unique gift of why we're here. And it's just so beautiful to hear that. Going back, like how do you put out the content when there is the inevitable like devil on the left shoulder, if you will? That's like, you know, hey, what if nobody watches this? What if you get people that talk shit in the comments? What about this? Like, what do you do personally to kind of just shut that up and just do it anyway?
There was a day, it was probably like late January of this year, where I had finished. What I do right now is I essentially get these old used surfboards and I clean them off and make these whole ASMR cleaning videos.
They're
And
dope,
then
by
I
the
do,
way. Whoever's
and I
listening,
do,
check it out. They're
yeah.
dope.
And then I do oil painting on top of it. And I had finished my first one and I had my first video edited. I didn't have any other surfboards finished. And I was just like, honestly, dude, I'm just going to post it. Like, for so long, I was like, I'm going to wait until my birthday to post it, or I'm going to wait on this special day or this special time. And it's, to me, that's just my ego or my resistance holding off on knowing what I have the power to do today. And so at some point, you just have to have this, like, I don't care mentality. I'm just going to put it out there. And the more that you do it, the less intimidating that it becomes. And so it, even before the surfboards, it started with the daily dose of the cosmos meditation videos that I asked you to do. And that was even more of like an intimidating factor because I'm talking about like spirituality and meditation on like a social media platform. Like it's not like the ego, like, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I'm talking about like meditative and spiritual practices on a platform that isn't really built for something like that. It can be. And so I just learned how to overcome that fear just by simply doing it. It's this big fear that we have in our minds of not being accepted, not being loved, but we all have people in our lives that love us and support us and want to see us grow and excel and become all that we can become. It's just this voice in your head that's telling you, no, don't do that. That you just have to learn to either not listen to or accept that you're having those thoughts, but still have the courage to be able to move forward.
Yeah, I've been dealing with that for a while. I've been putting out content kind of religiously for years now, and I still have the feeling inside of just like, oh God, no one's gonna watch this, what have you. But I've learned to really detach from caring and just focusing on sticking true to like myself with the content. And it's like, hey, as long as this aligns with me, because there's been times where maybe you can relate to this with your art videos where I've seen content and I'm like, oh, I bet I could put something out like that and it would go viral. But I'm like, I have to ask myself the question, is that authentically me though? And a lot of times, like, no, it's not.
It's like, I don't need to reshape who I am or pretend to be somebody that I'm not just because I think that other people will like it more. And that's exactly like the same feeling I had when I was in this duo in 2021. And you just kind of realize, like, once you know who you are, you just allow yourself to step into that and let the world deal with who you are and be unauthentic or just be fully authentically yourself. And I think it was, I can't remember who said this. It's from a workbook that I was reading, but people will pay money to see people who believe in themselves. And as long as you know who you are and you believe in yourself, I could be like a mediocre guitarist, but if I truly like believe in myself versus somebody who's an insane guitarist who doesn't believe in themselves, like there's just a different energy behind like how I play versus how the other person plays. And people are going to want to see somebody who truly believes in themselves because that's what everybody wants to draw that energy from. So
Do you think this correlates to why, like me, I'm thinking about how I listen to music, and I always prefer like a live acoustic with someone playing. Do you think that correlates to that point that you just made?
I don't know. Live versions to me are always better.
I just feel like I'm there.
Yeah, like, I mean, one of my favorite bands is the Grateful Dead, and I'm working on a Grateful Dead surfboard right now. It's so sick.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's so dope. But there's something about seeing them perform live versus their recorded music is great. It's like a 3 to 4 minute song and it's beautiful. But when you see them live, which right now, you know, Jerry Garcia has passed away, but Dead and Company has John Mayer and the remaining members of the Grateful Dead. And they'll take a 3 minute song, but go on like a 15-minute tangent where they are just fully in the zone, locked in with each other's energy and just going to a different space. Kind of like what's the Disney Pixar movie? Soul, where I don't know if you've seen that or not. It's a beautiful movie, but it's about how you get lost in doing what it is that you love doing. And the main character is a piano player. And when he's playing the keys, like he enters into this spirit realm where his soul is just fully expressing himself. It's in this flow state. And so I feel like to me, like a live performance is when people are fully lost in a flow state in a crowd in front of a bunch of people, and there's energy behind that. So I don't know if that's why you listen to live versions better than like or over recorded versions, but that could be a factor. And that's what I do with the Dead. I listen to live sets rather than the recorded audio most of the time. So
Yeah, me too with the Dead. And I'm curious, when you're doing your paintings, and I mean, you do multiple things that I've seen over the years. Do you get into that flow state where time is just not there?
yeah, I mean, every day is different, but as long as I show up, the muses will come one day or another. And there is a point with, like, my two biggest creative outlets are painting and music. And the one thing that I really enjoy about painting is there is no undo button. Unlike music, like I'm doing it on my computer and like I can zoom into the microscopic detail and make sure everything's aligned the way I want it to. But with painting, there's only moving forward and there's no going backward. And so at some point, you know, I may have a fear about messing up like this cloud that I'm painting or something. But at one point I let go of any fears, anxieties, and worries, and I just let the brush take on a life of its own. And I'm just there like allowing it to happen. And that's like a beautiful thing that I've learned through like watching Bob Ross a bunch, is like he just talks about like just let the painting come to life. There's no such thing as a mistake. There's only happy accidents. Work with whatever's coming out of you. And when I enter into that flow state, I'll be in there for like 2 hours, and then when I finish up, I like look at the painting, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I even get here? And it's the same thing with music. I could get in the flow state where like I finished a song in like 6 hours where I'm just glued to the computer just going through, and then I press play at the very end and I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. I couldn't even tell you how I did that. And there are so many interviews with musicians and artists and painters where they say the same thing, where you just get completely lost in your own flow and just allow whatever to come through you.
Allow is such a beautiful word there.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, that was awesome. And it's like life too. And whatever someone is when they're doing their connected purpose, something that they're good at and they enjoy doing, you can call that almost like a dharma, and you get into that flow state, and then new ideas come out and they just project out of you almost like it's coming from God or from source. And by the end of it, you're just like, whoa, how did this even happen?
I would say like another thing, like as I'm making this transition from leaving solar, getting into this creative life, it's a scary thing because like, you know, solar is like good money. It's like not as consistent as what I was like it. And that's partly the reason why I left. But as I stepped into this new lifestyle, you know, I had no sort of I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have anybody that I was selling paintings to, and I was just like, this is a really scary thing. And I could focus so much on the fear of not being able to afford my expenses, my rent or my utilities or my car or whatever. Or there could be like, yeah, it's just all the fears and the worries about the future, but talking about like this same concept of surrender, letting go, and just allowing life to unfold. And I think the big word is trust and being present. I've just seen all these random out of the blue blessings come into my life. I'll post a video and then 3 people will reach out saying, yo, can I get a surfboard? Or I'll focus on the things that I already have in my life rather than what I don't. And I'll get a call from a friend saying they need a logo to be made and they're down to pay $1,000 for it. All of these random blessings will come into your life if you just allow yourself to let go of any sense of control that you have of your future or the way that you want your life to be and just simply focus on the present, be surrendered to like the here and now and focus on what you do have, and then all of these blessings will just flow into your life left and right.
Beautiful. When you decided to quit solar, and I mean, you had made a point to it. Solar is good money, and I've seen you make good money in solar. So I know it's probably not the easiest thing to walk away from. And I know there's somebody listening that might really not like what they're doing right now, but they're attached to the sticker price. They're attached to their income that they know is going to come in. Or maybe it's similar to solar, but they know like the continuous effort that they put in is going to get them big checks, and they're attached to just that money, but they have this creative idea that they've been putting off, right? They want to start this, they want to go do this, that they know is going to bring them more happiness. How did you like finally cross that bridge?
I would say the one thing that I was really focusing on that time was, like if I were to die, say I make it to 80 and I die, am I going to go to the grave knowing that I gave whatever I wanted to do my entire effort, or will I die knowing that I could have done more with regret? And the latter scared the hell out of me. And I don't care how big of a paycheck you're willing to give me to do something that I don't want to do. I would rather be in the position of having little monetary income to be doing something that's fully satisfying my soul. Because at the end of the day, like, I look at life as like a spiritual journey, not a material one. It's not about gaining more and more and more excess. It's about fulfilling who you are as an individual and realizing how you can fully express and be yourself. I see God, universe, whatever you want to call it, as like the one infinite source creator. And we are all from that same source. So therefore we are all creators. And to mimic God is to be creative. And we are all inherently creative. It's just a matter of finding out what that is. Some people could be creating businesses. It could be creating income. And if that's your thing and that's what you're passionate about, that's what you love doing, by all means, go for it. But if you think that you were born to be a kick-ass opera singer or a dancer or a painter or running podcasts or being a yoga instructor, whatever it is, like, follow that, because that's what the whole point of life is. It's not just trying to make money. It's about becoming all that you can become to fully express and be yourself.
Beautiful. I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind sharing, about your experiences with plant medicine and psychedelics and other forms of altered reality substances. I know we talked about this off topic before. It's something that I haven't really talked much on the podcast about. I did have a woman that runs retreats for ayahuasca, but maybe if we want to start there, I know you've sat with ayahuasca a few times. What's your experience with that particular medicine?
Yeah, so I did a weekend retreat in October of 2022. It was my first and only time sitting with ayahuasca. It was a 2-day ceremony, so 2 separate experiences. And it was interesting because I have 2 good friends that went down to Peru, and they were in the Sacred Valley and sat, and they invited my girlfriend and I to go down. We got dinner, they talked about their experiences, but after we had left, both my girlfriend and I were like, honestly kind of intimidated after they shared their experience. And I was like, that doesn't really sound like something that I want to do. And so months pass. I have a different friend who sat, he's one of my friends from Omaha, and he called me and he was sharing his experience. And I guess this is the best way to kind of talk about how you can be ready for it. I was walking along the beach, and there were these like rose bushes and trees kind of like above where I was, and he was explaining his experience. And essentially at the end of the day, he said, Christian, out of all my friends, I know that this is something that you would really benefit from. And what they said at the retreat is the people that are in tune to be able to sit with this medicine walk along the red path. It's what the Native Americans call walking along like the heart of the earth, to be one with the earth versus like, I don't know if it's like the concrete path or whatever. And as he said that, I was walking along red rose petals and red flowers that were on the path in front of me. And it's just, I told him that, and he's like, Mama Aya, ayahuasca is already communicating to you through me and with these petals on the earth, saying that you're ready to go do this experience. And I got like the chills, and I was like, okay, like, I guess like I feel the call to do it now. And that's one thing that I would just preface to anybody that's listening. If they're interested in doing ayahuasca, it is not for everybody. And there has to be some sort of like deep inner calling or knowing that there is something that's out there that you can learn from and that you can tune into yourself. But it's not something that you just go decide to do, because it is a very powerful medicine. And like, if there isn't really an intention behind it, you can not like do damage to yourself, but it's like there really has to be some sort of like sign for you to go experience something like that. And you don't take medicine if you're not sick. And so there's something there that was calling me. And so I went and I sat, and it was a really, really profound and beautiful experience.
Real quick on before you move into the experience itself, you had said you don't take medicine if you're not sick, but maybe that sickness is something that you aren't aware of, that you are sick yet. Is that kind of what you're getting at too? Because the way you're saying it is you didn't really feel sick, right? Because you're in Peru.
No, it's more so like you take a plant medicine for like spiritual growth and development, but for some people they might not have the sense of like internal awareness. It may not, like, some people like haven't even done like psilocybin or something, and they go and take ayahuasca. Like, that's going from like a 5 to like a 70.
Yeah,
You know, it's good to just like start to understand like who you are and how you can react and what your mind is going to go into, because it can be a very challenging and hard experience, especially ayahuasca. And I know you've sat before, and essentially, without getting too into detail, I was in a group of about 30 people. You're all in the same room, and you set an intention. There's music played. It's a beautiful night. It's a great experience. What comes with ayahuasca is the purging of whatever you set your intention to be, and whether that's throwing up, crying, shaking, dancing, going to the bathroom, whatever it is, there's going to be some sort of energetic release of something that was stuck inside of your body. And so my intention the first night was, show me, like, first I said, please be gentle with me. Like, do not like go hard on me. Like, I'm not trying to get wrecked by this, you know?
Well, bam!
But show me whatever it is that I need to heal from. Show me, like, whether I know it or not, there's stuff inside of me that I know I need to work on, whatever that is. Show me and allow me to heal. And so I drank my first cup, and for the first 3 hours, I was like feeling great. It was just like a very fun, ecstatic, exploratory feeling. I didn't have any I didn't have any visuals or anything like that. It was just like a really feeling of highness. And my first thought was like, I don't know why, like, I always feel so negative all the time. Like, I can just decide to be happy. So that was kind of like the first little intro that it showed me. Then there was an opportunity to take a second cup, and I was like, by all means, I'm feeling great right now. Let's do it. So I took the second cup.
Uh-oh.
And then that's when everything flipped. And I like was like churning and moving around, and I couldn't get comfortable. And I had it was almost too many visions to keep up with. It was like 5 visions every second of like past traumas when I was a kid, like how my parents treated me. I had just at that time gotten a new kitten, and I would be so upset at that cat for eating the other cat's food, and I would like hit the cat, not like beat it, but like I would just like, spank it on the butt. And I was like, why am I doing that? I don't understand. But then when I was sitting in ayahuasca, I would see like how my parents treated me side by side with how I was treating my cat. And then I saw how my grandparents were treating my parents, like with reprimanding and whatnot. And I was like, oh my God, this is like almost healing generational trauma. I'm just going back this chain of like traumatic experiences that were passed down from generation to generation. And like, that's something that I was releasing onto a cat, you know? And so I saw all these things and I was like, wow, this is insane. This is really intense. I'm really uncomfortable right now. And so that second cup on the first night kind of made it really tough. But towards the end, I like found a really deep sense of like self-forgiveness and peace and understanding. And I feel like I learned a lot. I didn't sleep at all that first night, but I woke, like the next day came around, the sun came up, and I feel like I had so much energy just because whatever I needed to heal from had like left my body in a way. And then the second night, I only took one cup. My intention was show me how I can be of service to the world and other people through any method, whether it's art, whether it's music, creativity, just show me how I can be of service to other people. So I took the cup. I had a crazy 45-minute DMT visual trip. But rather than getting uncomfortable, like for a second, I was like, okay, I really feel like I have to throw up, but I just allowed myself to like fully surrender. I was like, bring it on, baby. Here we go. And
let's go.
I just sat in this like Buddha pose of full surrendered acceptance of whatever needs to come, like just allow it to happen. But doing so just allowed whatever was moving through me to move, and any sensation of purging that came up completely vanished, and I was just in this pure bliss state for like 6 hours, like full meditative like state. And anybody who was purging next to me or around me, I would pick up a drum and I would just like start drumming, and that would like help them purge, or I would like sing or do whatever. And like I think it was just showing me that I energetically, as long as I'm in like some surrendered state, I can be of service to other people around me through like I was just drumming and humming, you know what I mean? But that's like in a gist like what my experience was. We did a sweat lodge on the third day, which that was its own challenge of sitting in like a teepee with hot rocks for an hour. But
For an hour.
yeah, it was intense.
Post 2 days of ayahuasca too. Did visuals start to come back up during that, or
No,
feelings?
there weren't any visuals, but so it was 4 rounds, and the way that this group does it, it's all based on a mix of South American and Native American practices. And so it's really cool the tradition that they bring in, and the ideology that they share. And so there were 4 rounds in the sweat lodge where they're all 15 minutes long, and you praise thanks to the spirits of the north, east, south, and west. And they're all attached to elements as well. So there's earth, fire, water, and then air. And what was pretty crazy is like we had beautiful weather the entire weekend, and then once we got to the third round, which was the water element, it started like dumping rain, like mid session, and like we heard thunder and like rain was fully coming down, and it was just like this super ethereal experience that like
It's so
Earth was
beautiful.
listening to us, you know. And yeah, so it was a great weekend. I highly recommend that everybody experience some sort of plant medicine, whether it's mushrooms and psilocybin or DMT or ayahuasca, but only do it when you're ready or when you feel called. Like I like to think that the master appears when the student is ready, but don't go seek the master. Just
Yeah.
allow it to kind of come to you whenever the opportunity presents itself. So that was ayahuasca, and that was the most recent plant experience that I've done. So
How did you feel after, like fast forward a couple weeks or months after? Did you feel different from when you started? And then if so, how long did it take for you to kind of felt like you lost, maybe not lost, but kind of maybe got back to where you were before, or if you ever went back to how you felt before?
Yeah,
That makes
the way
sense.
that the way that I like to see it is you don't do the work when you do ayahuasca. It shows you the work that needs to be done. And so
Beautiful. Beautifully said.
when you get back into normal life, that's when the work starts. And like one of the major things that I worked on was like my commitment issues in a relationship. That was something that like I really struggled with. And as soon as I got back, my girlfriend and I had like one of the most challenging points in our entire relationship that like I was almost put in this position where it was up to me whether or not we would continue the relationship or not. And
Oh,
it was like
I remember this.
it was right off the bat, right when I got back from doing this, and I was like, "Oh my God, here we go!" And it was like an insane challenge. And even up till this point, like I'm still integrating what I'm learning through that experience.
Yeah.
It's a constant. You go, you learn something, and then you apply it to your daily practice. And it's the same thing with like I listened to Ram Dass, or I was introduced to the law of attraction at the age of 14, but I didn't really know what that meant or how to implement it in my life. And so you can take the notes, you can study, you can say that you know and you understand the laws or the spiritual laws of success or like whatever it is, but actually implementing it in your life is a completely different track. And that's what I think plant medicine does is you have the experience, but then how will you apply that to your life? Some people
Mm,
don't,
yeah.
and that experience is kind of like a waste, you know, but if you truly go there to learn and then you genuinely apply those principles or teachings to your life, like that's the way that I feel like it works through you.
Yeah. I love how you said that. And I've sat with ayahuasca a lot to this point in my life, 8 times now. And when I've done it with a certain group of people, we tend to make like good relationships with the people we do it with, and we stay in touch after, at least how I've done it. And I usually can tell when I know someone's not going to fully take advantage of it is because they're expecting their alcoholism or their cigarette smoking or their problem to be fixed that night. I came here because I want this to be fixed tonight. After I drink 3 cups of ayahuasca and I go through it, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and I'm no longer ever gonna crave a cigarette again. And I'm like, that's just that's just the wrong way to look at it. There's no with anything, there's really no quick fix. And I see a lot of people that go towards plant medicine because they're thinking of a quick fix in their life. It's like, oh, I'm cheating on my girlfriend. I'm doing all this. I need to go have an ayahuasca experience. It's like, no, you need to be a good person.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need to put in a lot of work because ayahuasca is going to show you a lot. But
Hmm.
how do you integrate with that after the experience? So I really wanted to add on to it, and I like what you said.
Yeah, man. Um, yeah, so I've only sat that one weekend, and I personally just know like when I get what I needed to learn, I don't go seek it again. And I feel like that's a good thing that I've learned and developed over the years is looking at psychedelics as it's not like a party thing. It's a substance or medicine that you need to take, but when you get what you need from it, you don't need to go take it again. And if there's an opportunity where something else presents itself, or I feel like I'm in a state where I can handle a new teaching, then by all means, I'll be open to receive that teaching. But just allowing yourself to really, I think the integration for plant medicine and for psychedelics is more important than the experience itself. It's how you just bring that back into your life and just
Mm.
live with it, you know?
Yeah, totally. And while utilizing psychedelics for personal development, I think is kind of what we're talking about right now. What other type, like psilocybin, or is there any other particular medicines that you have stuck to over the years or that really sit with you?
So I guess I'll just give like a little synopsis, and this will be a good segue. Um, I my first psychedelic experience was in 2016. I was in college and I had taken LSD, and for the 3 years following, the only psychedelic I took was LSD. I went to school in Boulder, Colorado, huge hippie town. And so hence
Not
like loving the
LSD.
Grateful Dead and why I have long hair. I went to college with like I was wearing like Sperry's polos, had short hair, and I was just a preppy kid. Go to Boulder 1 year later, hair's grown out,
Yeah.
so turn into a little hippie. But so I started with LSD, and in college I only treated psychedelics as like a party thing. It was a fun thing you do with your friends. You go to like the Boulder Creek and you drink beers and you just laugh and have a great time. And that's how it was, and it was awesome. And I really like was able to like tune in with myself. That's where I like was getting really artistic, writing in my notebooks, journaling, painting again, and it was awesome. And then it was in 2019. I was at a music festival at a Rufus Du Sol show, and I had taken too much LSD, where I had like a spiritual rebirth. And long story short, what I truly believe happened is I had like an unintentional Kundalini awakening, where I had so much like love in my heart that I just had this orgasm of like energy going through my third eye, and it was completely unintended. And some people say, wow, that's a beautiful experience, but birth, like physical birth, is gruesome, painful. And when you're the baby, you're coming out crying and you're naked and you're afraid. And that's kind of like how I felt at a music festival with 500,000 other people around me. And so it was a very shocking experience that truly woke me up. Like, I was seeing things before they happened. Like, there
Can you
was a
give an
person
example of that? Oh, yeah, sorry. I remember you told me this
yeah,
story, and
so
it's fascinating.
I'll I'll say kind of like the segue of experiences. Prior to Rufus coming on, there was a kid in a wheelchair sitting in front of me, and a couple years back, I had done a bike ride from San Francisco to Washington D.C. for people with disabilities, same one that Clay talked to you about. And so I have like this empathy bone for people with disabilities, right? And everybody's standing in a crowd, this guy's sitting, and I'm just like getting to know this guy as I'm coming up on LSD. And I'm just talking with him, having a great time. Halfway through the Rufus set, he stands up out of the wheelchair, turns around and gives me a hug, says like, "You changed my life forever, thank you." And I didn't think anything of it because I was tripping balls, and I like stand him up on the wheelchair, so now he's above everybody, and I'm like holding him by the waist, and we're just like having the best time. I didn't realize or understand the gravity of the situation until he sat back down, and like the immediate circle around us wasn't staring at the show, they were just staring at what just happened. And I was like, oh shit, this is kind of, I don't like people staring at me, I don't know what just happened, but it gave me this like self-conscious awareness of like, I need to get out of here. And so I just left everybody, and I was wandering through the crowd. My friends found me, and I was like kind of tweaking at this point, but I was like, listen, dude, like you're going to get a call from this person in like 5 seconds. They take out the phone. That person starts calling that person 20 feet away. He's going to do a cartwheel and then turn over and just like wave at us. 5 people look that way. Guy does a cartwheel, turns over to us and waves at us. And so that freaked me out because I didn't know what was going on. I had no spiritual understanding of like what that was. And it was my like eye-opening experience of like, what is the mind capable of? And that started my spiritual journey of like figuring out what happened, because I thought I was going crazy. And like that's when I started reading Eckhart's Holy, The Power of Now, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, listening to Ram Dass. And I realized that what had happened to me there wasn't some state of psychosis where I was losing my mind. I'd entered into a higher frequency of like understanding and seeing the world, where I was more connected on like a higher level. So I could see things before they happen. And like what the Hindu religion calls it is like people on a higher frequency develop siddhis or powers where you have clairvoyance or you can manifest things into reality or whatever it is. And so that was kind of like a door opener. But to kind of loop back to psychedelics, that was like my transition from treating psychedelics as like a party drug into a teacher.
What is this capable of?
a lot more respect was needed to have those experiences. It's not just something you go do for a party thing, because you don't know what could happen if you take too much or if you're in the right frequency. Like, and I truly believe it wasn't just taking psychedelics that got there, but I had such like a deep, profound love for life and for myself that just allowed the chemicals that were working through me to just expand and put me into this like higher frequency state. So
Mm. Do you think it had to do with your frequency when you started that, like your love frequency, and it was able to elevate that, or did it help you create the love frequency?
I think it was just like back and forth, like a double snake coiling around my spine. It was just like a mix of the two, like my frequency and I mean, when you take a psychedelic, your senses are heightened in general, whether it's like your five senses or your internal senses, like you can just feel more inside of you. And so when you just feel love, I was just expanding on it and expanding on it. And unintentionally, I just like hit this like ultra state, completely unintentionally. So, but
Nirvana.
it was cool, but it was like it scared the shit out of me for a second, you know.
Oh, I can imagine being around all those people. I would have ran to a porta john, hit in it, trip balls. But I'm curious.
So
I'm sure the listeners are as well. Just real quick, did you help this guy stand for the first time in his life? No
I don't
clue,
know. I don't know.
bro.
I don't know. And that's the thing. Like,
Because
was
they're
it a
all staring at
miracle?
you. That is
Yeah.
just
Was he pulling a prank? Terrible time to fucking pull a prank, but I don't know. But like this guy was a stranger. He said I changed his life, and like it was I just how we were talking of like understanding a genuine connection. Like that was a genuine exchange, and I know that like whatever had happened there was out of like pure love for life and just like love for another person, like another stranger. And I think
yeah.
that's like where like the Buddha mind, Christ consciousness, whatever comes in. It's like love everybody. Ram Dass, like love everybody and serve everybody and tell the
Mm.
truth. It's like it, the teachings of how to get to those higher states are already here, but it's just a matter of being able to have the discipline to like live that. And so I can't say like whether I did that or not. I'm not going to say I'm a self-proclaimed like healer and I can do miracles, but like all I know is that what I felt in that moment, I feel like caused some sort of ripple effect around me and my body and like my immediate environment, which elevated like the overall state of frequency. And everything is a wave. Like we think we're physical, but we are all just waveforms, and we can
Mm.
affect each other whether we know it or not.
After that particular night, did you feel like even maybe during the night or the day after, like any energy, an overwhelming energy up your spine and maybe in your crown or?
It was in that moment, like it was during Rufus's set, and the song "You Were Right" was on. It's like I know I can't get enough of you, and I was just
Yeah.
loving it. And it was like in that moment where I felt like the most intensive energy, like going up my spine, in my head, and it was like this pressure, but it was an outward pressure, and so it was just like explosive. It was electric. It was nuts, and yeah, so that was kind of like my introduction to like for the months following. I thought I like had genuinely had a mental breakdown, and I was considering like checking myself into like a mental hospital or like getting a
Wow.
therapist. Yeah, no, it really messed with me for a second, but it was also along the lines of um, I was reading these books, starting to step into spirituality, and um, this was the first time where I was in Boston and I was reading Dr. Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, and it was the first time like in years, or like maybe the first time in my life where I like genuinely prayed like to something. Like I prayed and I said like if there is like something out there, like please just show me that you exist. Like I need a sign. And it was like so genuine. It was just me and myself, and um it was just like the most broken down part of myself. And at the time, I had a Sharpie with me everywhere. I wrote one of my favorite quotes. It was from Kung Fu Panda, from the old Guru's hurl. It was, past is history, the future is a mystery, today's a gift. That's why it's called the present. We were in Boston, and I was walking my hotel, stopped at Boston Common, and then I sat on a random bench, and I was about to write the quote on the bench, and I look down and I see just like a, it's on a brick path, but underneath the bench there was an engraving that had that exact same quote: the past is history, the future is a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why it's called the present. And I sat and I just felt the weight of the universe in like the best way. It was like this like relief and like, oh my God, like something does exist. Like, oh my God, like holy hell, I asked for a sign, here it is. And so I think it was Dr. King. He said, faith is taking the first step without seeing the staircase. And I think that prayer was like taking that step, and then that step landed that day. And since then I've just been continuing to climb the staircase. So.
Wow. Do you think what's your opinion on a bad trip? Do you think it's such thing, or?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's all about set and setting and who you take it with and where you're at. I know my set and setting, it's with very good, close friends, everybody that I love and I trust, typically somewhere in nature, because nature is like the most safe space for me. I'm not going to ever do psychedelics at a music festival because I know what's going to happen. And unless I'm trying to step into that space again, but I don't really see myself wanting to do that. But bad trips do happen. And again, it's also like along the lines of, are you ready to experience something like this? Like, are you around the right people? Are you in the right mind state? Is like, do you have some sort of intention behind this? If you don't have an intention, you're just like doing it to do it, like you're more susceptible to a bad trip. But if you're like, even if your intention is, I just want to have a good time with my friends and connect with the people I love, that's a great intention, and you're gonna have a great time. You're gonna laugh your ass off. It's gonna be fun. But bad trips do happen, and it's all about like who you take it with, where you take it, and like, even if you feel yourself like getting overwhelmed, that's totally fine. But just like allow yourself to surrender. It's not going to be forever, and just like allow whatever's happening to flow through you. Because yes. Before we segue, it's like if you fight something that you don't want, it's just going to prolong it. But like just allowing the surrendering, which is just like, it's a scary thing, like letting go of your mind or your consciousness, or like, am I going to go crazy? But just like surrender. It's like the most beautiful thing, and it's freeing. It's just like letting go of like any weight that you have. And so, but anyways, sorry.
No, you're good. That actually, I did recently Bufo. I don't know if I talked to you about this, for the first time, and maybe the only time. It was very, very, very challenging. And I did Bufo after I did ayahuasca the night before, and then the next day I did Bufo in the morning. And with ayahuasca, for me, I've had trouble letting go, where I am controlling everything. I'm drinking 4 cups, and I still felt like I was in control, and it was my ego. And I'd be puking my brains out, but there was a still part of me that's like, I'm still consciously here. And it almost like an internal high five. Like, I'm still here, even though I'm just purging like crazy. It's actually kind of funny sometimes. I would make myself laugh, just and just going in. And I realized that I really needed to let go, to understand like the blessings. And it took me quite a few sits with ayahuasca to be able to let go. But Bufo for me was when I'm grateful I did ayahuasca before Bufo, because I had the understanding of needing to let go. So Bufo, maybe you know or maybe you don't, but the listeners, I'll explain it. So Bufo is from a frog. It's essentially frog poison that releases DMT, 5-MeO-DMT. It's the strongest form of DMT that we can have on planet Earth. And you take it through a pipe, almost like a crack pipe. So I had this guy sitting with me. I hit the DMT, and you just slowly start to fall back. And then all of a sudden, whoop-ah, everything goes white. And in this moment, I said, let go, Ethan, let go. That was probably the most uncomfortable feeling I've ever experienced in my life. It was essentially like I was dying and
Mm.
stepping over to the next, whatever, dimension. Once I let go, I thought I was doing this in another dimension, but I was laughing, Christian, for like 3 minutes loud. Like, ha, 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 like laughing like crazy. Because in that moment, I'm in this altered reality, and I just thought, that's it. That's it. It's just a simple, just let go and trust. And man, once I let go and trust with that, it made really just a lot of life simpler. But it threw me through a couple loops with this DMT. One of them was I thought I was done, and I thought I was coming back, and then it threw me through another loop, and it almost said to me, no, you're not done.
Mm.
You're still in here. I thought I was coming back to reality, and it threw me through another loop. And one weird thing, I was sitting in a tent. There was a number 5 for some reason in the tent. And as I started to go through this loop, that number 5, I opened my eyes because it was a lot. I wanted to try and keep my eyes shut, but I opened my eyes when I thought it was done, but got sent to the other loop. And I opened my eyes and I look at the 5, but it wasn't a 5. It was the yin and the yang symbol. And then
Interesting.
very, very interesting. And then my mind went on this whole philosophy of the duality of life, of water and fire and working and enjoying and all these different dualities and understanding the fine balance between it. And it showed me versions of my life where I was too far on the left versus the right and not following duality. And it was very interesting. And then when I was like, okay, I'm finally coming back, whoopah! It took me for another loop. I felt like I was in there for, I don't know, it's weird. They say this, time is unexistent, but it's so hard to explain that. Because what do you mean time is inexistent? Were you there? Did it feel like 2 hours? Did it feel like a year? I don't know. But it scared me for at least the next couple weeks after, where I thought when walking down the street, I'd wake up back in the tent because I went through another
Mm.
loop. And that loop was me living life. So it took me like a couple weeks to realize that I wasn't in that trip.
Yeah. Because like if you expect to be done with something and then it starts to come back and then there's just resistance to like I have to do this again, you know? Like I have to whatever I did to get out of here, I'm going right back in and I have to get out again. You know, I totally understand and feel where that's coming from. I personally haven't done Bufo, my girlfriend has. Um I've done regular DMT, which you also like leave and go into like a different space, but it was just so colorful and it lasts like 5 minutes. But um, either way, that's crazy. When she did it, she said that it was complete and total voidness, like no colors, no sounds, no whatever. And her teacher said that most of the time that's the case because your soul or your spirit is doing a lot of subconscious work that your mind is just not going to be able to comprehend. And so the integration for her was like a 2 or 3 week process where she would feel like she was back in that space. And so that seems to be like a recurring theme, I guess. I've yet to try
Yeah.
it, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, well, if you ever come to Colombia, I got the hookup here. Yeah, it was
How has your time been in Colombia?
amazing. Amazing.
What are your
Colombia.
highlights, like highlights, things that you'd recommend, or like what are things that you've seen or experienced, things that are different than the culture in the United States? Like what are you seeing happening down there that's different, that's affecting you?
Mm. Um, I'd say to start, I really enjoy the people. The people, the paisas in Medellin, are just really welcoming, curious, filled with life individuals. Society is a little bit slower here versus the fast-paced, who are you and what can you do for me kind of society that we live in the U.S. It's more of like, hey, who are you is what I'm feeling a lot here. They're very understanding that I don't speak good Spanish, but I'm learning, and they want to help is beautiful. In Bogota, it wasn't so much like that. They were more like, "What do you want, gringo? Come on, learn our language." But Medellin is very opening. Um, the landscape here is beautiful. You're walking down the street, and there's just bamboo coming out of the street. It's just absolutely gorgeous. There's just nature all throughout the city. The food is really, really good. I feel really like genuinely good. My body feels good here. Um, I'm having better relationships with women than I did in the U.S. Like romantic relationships, I'm finding are a lot more connected here, and
Mm.
they're kind of more of what I'm looking for out of a romantic partner. I'm finding here a lot of a creative community as well. Like the people I've been networking with are very similar to you and I, very creatives and very into spirituality. And I went to a cigar dinner last night, and it was with a bunch of entrepreneurs. I didn't know what it was going to be, but a common topic was spirituality. And one of the
Mm.
craziest things is one of the dudes went to Wat Pat Tamwa as well, the monastery that you and I went to. I
No
couldn't believe it.
way. That's
Yeah,
insane. What a small world. That's nuts.
crazy. And he's
I
the one
don't know.
that's throwing these events. And he also, which we're going to get into in a little bit, he's also went to Wim Hof's place, and he got injected with the poison or whatever, like the disease, and then had it cleared out of him. I'm curious to ask you a little bit that.
That's insane. Because he's like Wim Hof mentioned that in his book. He didn't mention that when I was over there, but yeah, to give people some context. So, when I had gone to Europe, I ran an Ironman race, first ever one. It was great. And then the day after I finished, I packed my bike up, flew to Amsterdam, and spent the day in Amsterdam, picked up some mushrooms, and then got on my bike and I started biking. And my first day was going from Amsterdam to Rotterdam. It was probably 60 miles or kilometers. I can't remember which one. And the couple months prior, I was reading Wim Hof's book, and this was when I was getting really into cold exposure, breathing techniques, and different ways of just like elevating your state of mind. And so Wim Hof was a huge guide for me. And when I was in Amsterdam, I had remembered that the Wim Hof Method Center is in the Netherlands somewhere. And so I looked it up, and it's like directly on the way to Rotterdam. And so I was like, I am 100% stopping. And the entire bike ride there, I was like, I'm going to meet Wim Hof. He's going to invite me in for lunch. It's going to be so awesome. Like, I was just saying this over and over in my head, over and over. Out of the blue, huge thunderstorm comes out of nowhere. I'm like in the cornfields in a different country on a bike. I'm like, what is going on? Like, it is dumping rain where you cannot be biking. There's lightning. And I'm standing under like this tree, and I'm like, do I just keep biking, or like there was a barn back there, like I just go hang out in the barn? What do I do? And then as soon as I like kind of asked myself that question, a massive branch fell from this tree right in front of me, and I was like, we're going back to the barn. So I'm there for like 30 minutes as it's just dumping rain, and in my head I'm just like, shoot, like what if I don't meet Wim Hof? Like, this isn't like part of the plan. Like, what the hell's going on? And then I just had this overwhelming sense of, I am exactly where I need to be right now. This is exactly where I need to be. And I was just, again, surrender, acceptance, like, here I am, right? And so the storm kind of passed, it calmed down. I got back on my bike. I had probably another like 20 miles, and I was pulling up the street where I thought was, going to his house. And I see like a car pull into a driveway, and I'm like, okay, I think that's his driveway. So I make it down. It's probably like another half mile, and then I go in and I see the Wim Hof method like flag. I'm like, holy shit, this is his house. And I'm pulling up. I see the car that drove in, and there's like just a leg kind of hanging out of the driver's seat. And I'm like, hello. And out pops a head. It's Wim Hof, and he's like, hello. And he like walks over to me. He's like, who are you? And I'm like, what's up, Wim? My name's Christian. I'm here from California. I just ran an Ironman race. I read your book. I'm biking to Spain. just thought I'd come by and say hi. He's like, I'm finishing a game of chess right now. Feel free to walk around. I'll come find you. And so he goes back in his car and he's like playing a game of chess. And I'm checking out like it's the Wim Hof Method Center. It's not just his house, but that's like where he has his retreats, where he films all of his videos, where he has like everybody come to do like his practice. And so I'm just here like in shock. Like he's a huge mentor or like an inspiration for me. And I just met him, and then he finishes his game of chess. He comes up to me, he's like, so do you want like some coffee or something? And we go into his house and we just have like a one-on-one conversation for like an hour and a half talking about life. This was during COVID, so we were talking about like how the world was ignoring him because like the injection thing, like your mind and your body can heal anything, and nobody's really listening to him. Everybody's saying go get vaccines at the time. And he at one point said, I remind him of his younger self and that we met today because the angels wanted us to meet and all of this stuff. And so it was like a very surreal experience. I just couldn't believe I was like sitting one-on-one with Wim Hof, like drinking coffee and like hanging out with his dog and his cat. And it was unreal. And I had like manifested that like months prior. I was like, I read his book, he's going to be there. Like I was saying that to myself while riding. There was the thunderstorm, divine timing. If I had gotten there where there was no thunderstorm or tree branch, I would have gotten there like 30 minutes early and he wouldn't have even been there. So it was like divine timing. Like he pulled up 2 minutes before I got there. So yeah. That was a beautiful, awesome exchange. I will always remember that. And that was day one of biking, which was sick.
Day one of biking. Wow.
Yeah.
So did he talk back to the like the injection that he was saying, where he's injected like literal disease, not disease, but sickness into people's veins, and then through his practice, the body will just reject it.
Yeah, it'll fully expel it. I can't remember what they were injected with. If it was like, not like the common cold. We'll just say, for example, like injected with a syringe of the common cold or some sort of disease, right? And if you practice, his 3 pillars of health and teaching are the breath, cold exposure, and the mind. And so when you do all 3 consistently, your body and your like cellular level will fully expel any sort of disease, and it will naturally heal itself. Wow. And like he's proven that through studies, through science and everything, that like your body and your mind are a lot stronger than what they're made out to be through society. And so yeah, you're spot on with that.
With cold plunges being so big, what like everyone's jumping in a cold plunge nowadays. For the person listening and even myself, how can I utilize the Wim Hof method, like to integrate the breath, the cold, and the mind? Do you do breath work before you get in the plunge? Do you do it while you're in the plunge?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. So where I'm working now, I work at this self-care studio called Pause, where we have LED light beds, float tanks, saunas, and cold plunges. And so I get to use the facilities for free. So I every day will cold plunge, and it's at like 45 degrees. And so my method of doing it is like, it's so easy for any of us to get fixed on the past, regret or like depression, or like I should have done this or I should have done that, or worries about the future. Like, what if this doesn't happen? What if I can't afford this, or whatever it is. And for me, the cold exposure is taking away any sort of fears or worries about the past and the future. And it brings you into this shocked state of, I only need to focus on my breath right now. Like, I am so present because there is nothing else that I can focus on to calm my body because I'm in this like shocked state. And so I do the breathing, not like Wim Hof breathing in the plunge, but like I'm so focused on like, because when you get in cold, like your body and your breath are going to be and you have to like fully control and allow yourself to relax. And just once I get to the point of being able to do like in the cold,
Yeah.
then I know that I'm in this like relaxed state, and then I just only focus on the breath when I'm in there.
Mm.
And then I fully go under and I hold my breath for like a minute underwater, and
Jesus.
then I get out. Yeah. But how he recommends it is, I believe, do the breathing and then get into the cold and then focus on your breath while you're in the cold. And for the mind, I believe it's just all like, it's the positive thinking, and it's just the rewriting the biochemistry in your body, knowing that what you're doing is naturally healing yourself. And like, I mean, I learned about the power of the mind when I was doing Journey of Hope, the bike ride across the United States, because my body would just be fully dead 70 miles into a ride. I had another 40 to go, and I was like, I signed up for this. I'm riding every single mile, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to rack. I'm going to like ride, and I'm going to finish. And somehow, some way, if I told my mind that I was going to finish, my body would just follow, you know? And so like, it's the same stuff with Goggins too. Like Goggins will say like your mind is the most powerful thing that will push your body beyond any limit you thought was possible. And so like, that's why I do the marathons, the Ironmans, the cross country bike trips, like whatever it is, because I like to say, if I can do this, I can do anything. And like when I do complete it, it's not only do I get this insane sense of like accomplishment, but it's like, what else can I achieve? What else am I possible? What else is my mind telling me I can't do? But if I tell myself I can, I will.
Yeah.
And so that's like the power of the mind is its own topic that, I mean, Wim Hof talks about, Dr. Joe talks about, Eckhart Tolle talks about. So many people will bring up how your mind can fully influence the entire world that you live in any sort of way. And you can tune it in however you want, but it's all based on like the story that you tell yourself and the work that you do for yourself. And I think it's tied in with the physical aspect, the spiritual aspect, and what sort of information you're digesting. Like if you're doomsday scrolling on social media for 6 hours a day, you're probably not going to have that strong of a mind. If you're watching the news all the time, like not going to have that strong of a mind, because it's like fear and anxiety and like
Totally.
all this low vibrating energy that's being like shoved down your throat. But if you're focused on like listening to Ram Dass or podcasts like this or whatever else it is, you're just digesting information that's going to elevate your frequency, which is going to allow you to navigate life with like a higher consciousness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think endurance sports is a good way to test that too. And I've done this before. I've trained and done quite a few marathons now. I'm training for a big one now. And if I don't do breath work before a long run, like tomorrow I have to run 24K, and I'm going to do like 3 rounds of breath work before I start the run, because I know that this is going to help me with the run. I know it's going to calm my heart rate down before I even start the run. It's going to help me get into a flow state, so I don't need to try and figure that out while I'm running. But if I instead woke up after going out all night and I listened to Fox News and then I went out for my run, man, there's going to be some turmoil. And what's going to happen the whole time, you should probably quit. You should probably quit. Why are you doing this? Are you crazy? What are you doing? But with the flow state, it's just like, yes, this is good for you. This feels great. I can visualize. I can see my heart growing. I can see myself achieving my goal. So it's like the left or the right. And I'd much rather have that type of inner language of I'm achieving my goals. This is good for me, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it's just it's interesting. Another thing I wanted to point out that you had talked about with the cold plunge in the brain, visualizing like new neural networks being formed in your brain, and visualizing if you're sick and you're going into a cold plunge, or how the mind can heal the body. Dispenza talks about this a lot. He got struck by a bus and he healed his back totally with his mind. And it really comes down to like getting heart centered. You can do that through breath work, gratitude, and then visualizing like being healed and seeing it in real life. It's like I did that with my knee after knee surgery. Just stare at it, visualize. Yeah, that thing's healing. Hell yeah.
It's healing. I know it is. It feels like it. Just put that energy in there. It's crazy. And like, I have yet to, I mean, knock on wood, like, I haven't had any sort of like debilitating injury or anything like that. But like, if I were to wake up and like be diagnosed with cancer or some sort of terminal illness or whatever it was, like, I would not go down the chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, like big pharma way. Like, I would literally just apply the spiritual practices that I have learned, and I know that I'm capable of healing myself in any sort of way possible. I mean, it may seem like a little,
Chills.
yeah. I mean, it may seem like to the modern medicine culture like stupid or whatever, but like I just know that the mind is more capable than what we make it out to be. Like, we only say we use 10% of our brain or whatever it is. Like, I feel like we have the capability of being able to use more, and it's just a matter of like telling yourself that you can, and just allowing whatever to happen. And that just comes with faith and belief that I have the power to heal myself. Because if you don't believe it, then that's the first step. If you don't believe any of the things that you're doing, then like it's not going to work. If you truly believe something, like, that's going to bring some sort of like magic, energetic force into life, you know?
Totally. And a lot of people wait for the cancer or them being at rock bottom to finally surrender to belief. But what Dispenza talks about, and what I like to talk about, is why not just believe now?
Yeah.
Like, why wait for ground zero? Why wait for the absolute worst thing in your life to have belief? Because you know what? As Christian's talking and he's saying that he's not really scared of a cancer or what have you, because he knows his mind's going to heal him and he's not going to go to chemo. This is also coming from a state of non-fear. So I guarantee you'll never experience the cancer because of that. Like, it'll never happen to you. It's not possible to enter your frequency. It's not possible to enter the frequency. Cancer's in really starts in the mind, and it comes through negative thoughts, not being able to let go of the past, constant toxicity in your environment, overwatching the news, continuously playing the same program in your mind that leaves you in a state of fear constantly. People attract those diseases.
Yeah, or it's like holding on to like negative energy. Like, my friend who had called me about ayahuasca, his experience was a lot more intimate because his little brother 8 years ago committed suicide, and that's just a heavy burden on anybody. And
Yeah.
so, but what he said that he shared and he learned through that experience was, like, he was like, I want to forgive the person who he thought was responsible for his brother's death. And ayahuasca showed him, like, you've already forgiven this person. The person you haven't forgiven is your little brother. And so he had this profound, like, oh my gosh, like, I need to forgive somebody else. And then after he did that, he was able to communicate with his little brother through the ether sphere or whatever. And then after that exchange finished, ayahuasca said, now heal yourself and forgive yourself for holding on to that resentment that you had for your little brother. Because whether you know it or not, there's going to be like some sort of negative energy that you're holding on to from a traumatic experience, from something that you did or something that somebody did to you, whether it's like a bad breakup or a family member passing away or whatever it is. There's going to be some sort of like, I could have done this, or this wasn't supposed to happen, so I'm going to hold on to this like negative it's energy that's stuck in your body. And that can form into tumors, it can form into terminal illness, it can form into something. So I truly, like, I do agree with you that a lot of cancer can be formed just by negative thoughts and holding on to negative energy.
Yeah.
But if you like learn the act of forgiveness for yourself and for other people, and you're living life in a state of blissful acceptance and surrender, like, you're not holding on to any sort of negative energy, and therefore like nothing's going to get stuck. So as long as you know how to navigate and do the work of letting go and releasing and forgiving, which it's not just a one step over process. Like it takes time to forgive, and it's like sometimes not easy to do.
Yeah.
Like somebody could have very badly hurt like another person, like through some form or act of something. And it's not easy just to say like I forgive you. You have to go through the grieving process. You have to like feel the pain. Sometimes you do have to go to rock bottom. But to me, seeds are planted in darkness, and sometimes you have to go to a dark place in order to plant your own seed of growth. And so it's learning how to, if you are in a state where you feel alone, it's scary, and like it's dark, it's not good, like that is the most fertile ground for allowing yourself to grow. So
And it can be hard to forgive, right? Because we have this, a lot could have happened to maybe a listener, and they're just like, I can't forgive this person that cheated on me this many times and ruined my 20s or what have you. But it's like, there's this quote, those who anger us control us. And when I heard that, that really stuck with me for a while. And I'd be angry at my ex-girlfriend, but I'd be like, just forgive. And also, we need to learn to forgive thyself. Because if we want to create a new personal reality, it comes with a new personality, as Joe Dispenza says, and we can forgive our past personality. We can. We're allowed to forgive ourselves. We're a completely different person. We made mistakes. Everyone's made mistakes. You, myself, we've all made mistakes. But it's so important to forgive so we can walk in to our new present reality, personal reality, without the judgments and the feelings and the anxiety, and as you were saying, that energy that's stuck. Just let go, man. Let go.
Before you can know yourself, you first have to forgive yourself. You and I learned that from the Know Thyself podcast. There's I think he had Aaron Abke on, and he was talking about the law of one, which that's its own topic, but he was saying, like, before you can become and step into who you can become, you first have to forgive who you are. So how can you know who you are and step into something if you're still holding on to pain or suffering or whatever it is? So good point, I
go
guess.
on forever on that one. I want to ask you, when was your first thunderstorms coming broad? This is another thing, back to like Colombia, the storms throughout the day, beautiful. Just a little trinkle of a storm is just gorgeous. But I want to ask you, when was your... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do miss good thunderstorms. We don't get any in Southern California, but being a Nebraska boy, we would always get the thunderstorms, the tornadoes. Like, it was always so fun. But anyways, go for it.
I was going to ask you when your first challenging endurance tribute was in your life. Was it the bike across America that you did with Clay?
That, like, physical, like, challenge, yes. That was like my first heavy endurance based activity, and it was 67 days. As Clay had mentioned, he tore his meniscus, I believe, in Iowa, and so we were just over halfway. But you start in San Francisco, end in Washington, D.C. It's 3,720 miles. I got in trouble one day I was a college kid and I was reckless, and I was kicking over trash cans at 2 a.m. on a drunk escapade, and the cops came, and I was 20 years old at the time, and I could have been sent home. But the guy who was in charge of the route said, "You've been an absolute stud on this, and like you lead the friendship visits. I could send you home right now, but I'm just going to rack you tomorrow." So out of the 3,720 miles, I rode every single one except for one day, 70. And that was not my choice, but I didn't get sent home. So, but yeah, wow. That was my first long endurance ride.
What was some of like that's crazy. Doing that many miles a day for that long. What are some of like the internal challenges that you overcame?
there were probably 3 days in particular that were like incredibly challenging. One was Kirkwood going up Lake Tahoe, 10,000 feet of climbing, 70 miles. That was like, when you're driving up a mountain, it's like switchbacks. So you're going back and forth around curves. And so after each curve, you're just going uphill again. And then you turn and then you're more uphill and it's more. And so the first lesson I learned, this was day 4 of the bike ride, by the way, too, is like, you're going San Francisco to like Sacramento, like Napa Valley or wherever. It's like, it's pretty smooth sailing. And then you just all of a sudden are just going up Tahoe. And so I was breaking my mentality down on each curve because all I was wanting was a downhill. And so after each one, I was like, God, I just want it to be downhill. And I would turn and be more uphill. And I'd be like, oh my God, this is terrible. And like, talk about the mind, right? Like, I started to just trick myself and start telling myself the story. After this turn, it's going to be even more steep than what this one was. And I would turn. And if it was that steep, my mind would be prepared for it. If it was less steep, I would actually be stoked because it wasn't as much of an incline as I thought it would be. So the first lesson I learned was have high hopes but low expectations. Like, and that's like something I apply to all of life. Like, I hope for the best, but I don't expect the best. Because if your expectation is broken, that's where you're going to be let down. And so that was like the first like physical sort of like lesson that I learned.
I wanted to stay on that for a second 'cause that's incredible. So I'm going to use this. Thank you.
Yeah,
but
for
you're
sure.
essentially preparing yourself, your mental, for a crazy uphill, and your mind is starting to get you ready for that because you're like, okay, the next one's going to be even steeper than this, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But you're essentially just prepared no matter what. And then if it's a downhill or what have you, because I think what we do a lot in life is we're always preparing for the downhill. Please be a downhill. Yeah. Please be a downhill. But then, well, bam.
It just hits you in the face, and then like you get broken down, and then your motivation to actually do it lessens. But if you are prepared and ready to do something that's even harder, it's just going to go by a lot easier because you're mentally prepared for it.
Wow.
So that was like the first lesson. The second one was I hated going through Nevada because we went on, I can't remember what highway, it was like Highway 52, the loneliest highway in America. It's just like straight, flat, and desert. There are no buildings. There is absolutely nothing out there. You are in no man's land. And like anywhere you look, you see like if it's super hot, you see like the reflection, and like you feel like you're just tripping because you're like, I would take my helmet off and it would just be, I had a black helmet and it would just be covered in white from the salt that was sweating from just like so much like heat exposure. And that was a 110-mile day. It was the first Century ride that we had. And I was at mile 70 and my body was like fully broken down. And like I had mentioned this like a little bit ago, but like I was broken down, and then at one point I was just like, I'm going to ride every single ride. I signed up for this. I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to do this. And I don't know how I did, but there was 40 miles left and I crushed it. And then at the very end of that ride, it was like a mile incline uphill to where we had to sleep that night. And I was like, I'm going to destroy this hill. And I did.
Let's go.
Yeah. So, and then the last aspect is like, doing something in service for other people is also a huge motivator. I wasn't riding for me. I was riding for the people that I was raising money for. And when you meet these people that they don't know how to ride a bike, they can't ride a bike, they are paraplegic, they have mental, people call them disabilities. I'd say they're superpowers or special abilities because they are just tapped into something else. Like I met somebody with Down syndrome, but they call them savants, where like I would go up to him and he's like, when was your birthday? And I said, February 4th, 1997. And he's like, oh, that day was a Tuesday. Like this happened, this happened, this happened. And I was like, there's no way. And I like looked it up. He was spot on with all of it. 30 people went up to him and it was like, this day, 1995. And it was like, oh, that was a Friday. Like how do you know that? Like how, like, it's just like we look at them as different than normal. And so we're just going to put a label on them and say it's a disability just because we don't understand them. But I don't know. I developed a lot of empathy for these people, and like they looked at us like superheroes, but they were the ones that changed us. And so when I'm on the bike and I'm struggling and thinking about all the things that it's like, wow, this sucks. It's like, does it really though? Like, look at the people that like you are riding for. And that was just like a huge motivator to ride every single mile. And so no matter how many problems I think I could have, like, it is not bad at all. I get to say I'm riding my bike across the United States. Like, that's sick.
Yeah, that's pretty freaking cool. You get to talk about it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So you only missed one day and you completed every ride. Were you one of like the few savages that was completing every ride and not racking?
There were 3 people that rode every mile on my route. Out of like the 30 something riders, only 3 people rode every single mile. I didn't hit every mile. Like I missed one day. So technically there were only 2 people. But like, if it were my choice, I would have been fine to ride that day.
You would have, but
I would have. But there were 2 people that rode every single mile. Everybody else, like some people, like got injuries, like crashed their bikes, got concussions, whatever it was, or some people, like there were some people that were just like too tired and couldn't do it, and that's fine. You know, like there's no judgment. Like it is very physically challenging, and the fact that they signed up to do it, sick. You know,
respect.
You know, but the people that like genuinely go, like like what Clay said on the podcast last time, you gravitate toward, like if you are a strong rider, you gravitate towards the strong riders because you want to keep going, and you push each other, you motivate each other. And that's one thing that I noticed when I did Europe by myself, which was 2,200 miles. It was so much harder because it was just me, myself, and I didn't have any camaraderie. I didn't have anybody to share the experience with. I didn't have anybody to push me. I was biking up the Swiss Alps by myself, and that was like its own challenge of like, it's so much easier to tell myself like, you can walk this, or like you can take a train to the next city, or whatever it is. But like having the camaraderie was, you know, it's also like huge boost of energy.
Why the fuck did you do Europe by yourself?
I hated my job, and I didn't want to be up until 6 a.m. partying. Like I needed something to like reset. And I read Wim Hof's book, and when Wim Hof was like 20, him and his brother biked from Amsterdam to Spain, and I was like, I'm going to do that. And I just decided to do it. And so I biked from Amsterdam to Sevilla, Spain, and I studied abroad in Sevilla like 5 years prior to that. And I surprised my host grandma that I stayed with. She's like a 75-year-old Spanish woman. She had no idea I was coming, and I knock on her door when I finish, and she was like the happiest person I had ever seen. She was like, "Hi, mi niño," like all this stuff, and it was a really cool, special moment. But I just wanted to do something. It was like a soul-seeking adventure that like I had felt called to do, and I didn't have any money in my pocket, but I was like, I'm 23 years old. I have nothing to lose right now. Like, I just want to go do something dope. And so did an Ironman race, got the tattoo, and then I biked to Europe, met Wim Hof, got to see some like of my European friends. Like, it was such a cool journey. And one thing that I learned on that was, you've seen Into the Wild, Christopher McCandless.
Changed my life.
Yeah, huge movie and book. I haven't read the book. I saw the movie, but one of his lessons that he wrote in his journal is happiness is not real unless it's shared with other people. And I genuinely felt that because there were times when I was like, I wish somebody was here with me right now.
Mm.
just to like experience this with. And it just showed me like how much gratitude I have for the people in my life. And like I just like there is nothing like that was such a strong motivator for me, is just like the pure love that I have for people in my life, my family, my friends, my support system, like. And like I experienced like joy, like going down the Swiss Alps like 40 miles an hour. I was howling, meeting Wim Hof, like all this stuff. It was great, you know. It was like it was super cool. It was this like journey that I took by myself. It was kind of like a little hero's journey sort of energy, and like it was dope. Um, but I on that trip just felt so much like love and gratitude for the people that I was like resenting, like the people that were staying up and partying till 6 a.m. that I was like getting sick and tired of. I was like, wow, I genuinely love these people. And
Yeah.
sometimes you need to get out of your environment to realize how important it is to you. Like you don't
Mm.
realize what you have until it's gone.
Mm.
And so like I took myself out of that environment, put myself in this solo space, and then I was like, oh my God, like I was crying like multiple days of just like,
Wow.
I miss these people, like I love these people. And that was the lesson I got from that journey. So
Wow. I can relate this a little bit of a different turn, but I can relate this. Recently, I was back home for a funeral actually, and my brother had asked me. He's like, why don't you live back at home and be with your family, X, Y, and Z. And in my life, I've learned that when I'm back home, I don't feel like this is where my soul is supposed to be. So I feel very unpresent. But me living in Colombia and my soul is being expressed here, when I go back home, that present moment, that week I have with my family feels like 2 years
mhm.
because of how like grateful I am to be there with them because I'm working on all my life outside of it. But when I'm with them, I'm able to really capitalize and be so in the moment with my family because I understand the power of just like that present moment and that I'm not going to have it all the time. And it seems like you kind of felt that with like your friends and when you're on this solo journey. So it was just really beautiful to hear that because I kind of related it to a lesson I had recently.
It's a beautiful thing, like stepping out of like your comfort zone and going somewhere where you don't know anybody. It makes you miss people, and it makes you just like cherish the time that you have that you would have otherwise taken for granted. And so I think it's healthy and it's good to get out of your home environment or your immediate circle every once in a while, just so you can like find gratitude for it. Because
Mm.
otherwise like it is really easy just to like get complacent in your relationships or take things for granted or realize that like or forget that like our time here is limited. And rather than just like going through the day to day, it's more of making a meaningful experience with the people that you love in your life. And sometimes
Mm.
you need to get out to like feel that. So good
I
on
think
you.
especially nowadays with this technology age we live in, where if you hang out with a 15-year-old and say it's like your younger brother or your niece or your nephew, and they're so drilled on their phone and they're so not here. And even adults, us nowadays, we're so not here when we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And this getting away and realizing how valuable here is with us right now, sometimes it does take to get out of that environment to realize how precious just that space is in that present moment now because at the end of life all we have is our moments and I was reading a book. I think it was Stephen R. Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and they were talking about he had studied deathbed literature, which is an interesting thing, but essentially deathbed literature is when people are on their deathbed, what are the things they talk about? And the most common things people talk about is their relationships
Mm-hmm.
and their moments of life. And, it's never about the businesses I built. Maybe for some people, it's never about how much money I have in my bank account. Um, it's about the relationships and the moments you have with people. And It's just a beautiful thing to remind ourselves as we're going throughout life and existence to, hey, I'm here with Christian right now, and I'm going to really make the most out of this moment because this is where we are. This is where we
Yeah.
are in space. Even though we're in a virtual world right now, I'm here with you. And it's so beautiful to be in the moment. You know how many times in my heart I was like, man, I love this guy. Throughout this conversation, the amount of times that I've said that is just like unbelievable.
Just
But
being
just
where your feet
beautiful.
are.
Mm.
Like, and it's like, I don't know, like it's so easy to get distracted in this day and age, and we are addictive by nature, and it's like the algorithms for social media are meant to hook people, and so you just have to learn how to navigate through that. Like I have an app on my phone, on my computer that like any social media is completely blocked until 3 p.m. and it stays open until like 10 p.m. So I only have 7 hours throughout the day to like get on, but I'm not gonna like if it's midday, like I'll get on, I'll post what I gotta post, and then if I want to like go through messages or whatever. But I'm only on social media for like 30 minutes out of the day, and I just know my mind, and I know how it affects me. Where if I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is look at my phone, I'm gonna be more distracted. I will not be focused, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to like say if I'm working on a painting to like get up and just like go eat food or like just do mindless behavior versus if I wake up in the morning, I try to get on my phone but there's a block on Instagram or whatever, and I'm like, okay, cool, like I have the morning to myself, and so I will go on a run, I'll go to the gym, I'll meditate, I'll say my affirmations, I'll write in my journal. I will win the battle against myself for that morning, and then I'm just way more dialed in. And I know my priorities and I know what I have to focus on. So I think like that's going to be this its own challenge for humanity moving forward is how can we learn to be more independent from the technology that's like constantly drawing us in. And so that's people are waking up to that too,
Yeah.
you know, but like seeing like 4-year-olds with iPads at like a dinner table is like atrocious to me, and it's like I feel terrible for those kids because they're just going to be so distracted in life,
So
and
much
so
anxiety as well. They're going to grow up with
yeah,
anxiety. Another thing about
so
Colombia I love is not seeing much of that here. And I've been feeling more and more lately of a divine purpose for me is later in life to create a space for people that have those addiction problems to technology. And through everything that you and I talk about, even today, and that we study and we find importance in our life, and just being in the present moment, and creating space for people to detach and connect with Earth, with nature, with thyself, is going to be more important than ever in the coming years. More important than ever, I believe.
I 100% agree, 100%. And
Mm.
I think it's dope that you're running the Dream State and you've been curating this brainchild for so long and it's turning into what it is now. And you're bringing on other people that are also beautiful minds to share their wisdom and their knowledge. I think that's what the world needs is just hearing the voices of people who like we don't have anything figured out. I remind myself daily that I am just a child and I don't know anything,
Yep.
but that helps me out because I look at life with this childlike sense of wonder, curiosity, and openness. Because if you navigate life thinking you know everything, then it just gets bland and it gets boring, and there's no room for excitement or for spontaneity or for like magic to come into your life.
Mm.
But when you just allow yourself to be like, I don't know like how the universe works. I don't know how it is. I'm here just like as a child of the universe, and I'm here on my own spiritual mystical journey. That's when like you start looking at life with this perspective of like there's magic in the air. Everything is connected. I am being watched over and guided, and I'm exactly where I need to be right now, and I'm open to receive any lessons, any opportunities, any blessings, any hard times to grow and to learn. But you start to look at life with this perspective of there's mystery and there's wonder. And that's why we don't know what God is, because if we did, then there wouldn't be any sort of like spirituality, there wouldn't be any mystery or anything like that. And so that's why it remains kind of like hidden behind the veil, is for us to like live our lives in this state of like magic.
Yeah. Curious magic.
Yeah.
Just knowing that. I like actually saying the word, I'm just a monkey. I'm just a monkey monkeying around, and I'm a monkey that's having a damn good time doing it. Uh, when you were speaking, I had the blessed opportunity to go to this mastermind recently, and Dan Fleischman owns this mastermind. It's called the 100 Million Mastermind Experience, and these people have accomplished some amazing things. And what happens in group masterminds is these people come in and they want to say, oh, my business is crushing it, doing $1 billion. But one thing I love about Dan, what he does is he's like, hey, everyone's crushing it here. No one cares what you're doing. What are you having trouble with right now? And what do you want to learn from the other people? Share that, because that's what's going to help us all. Vulnerability is going to help us. Not me sitting here and saying, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, or Christian's here, he's doing this, he's doing that. How is that going to help me? Let's sit here and let's talk about what we're struggling with, and maybe we can have some insights there. Because we're in such a world, even last night when I went to this mastermind, I'm just always like, yeah, this is what I do. I'm having trouble right now with getting more clients. And I'd share that, and then all people would go around there talking all about the good. And I'm like, that's great. That might make you feel good for the moment, but what are you looking to get out of this mastermind? Is it just like the
And
sense of I'm doing great, or do you want to learn?
and I think you said the magic word, which is vulnerability, which I was having a conversation yesterday about this, that vulnerability is a superpower, because when you can like share something that's on your mind, that's bothering you, that's not working, you're opening up the space not only to be heard and to be received, to be accepted, but also for guidance, wisdom, and new knowledge, understanding, and a new pathway to form, versus like you keeping it in your head is only going to keep you kind of in your head about it. But when you are vulnerable, like say I'm like super uncomfortable with some sort of situation, or I'm not even feeling that well, and like a bunch of my friends are together and like we're all going to go out or something like that, if I like being vulnerable is like an uncomfortable thing, but if I say like, yo, like I'm really not feeling that well, I want to like hang out, people are going to be like receptive and be like, bro, all good, like what do you need, like how can I help you? And it creates the awareness that like I'm not maybe where somebody else is, but they're wanting to like lift me up. And so vulnerability is our superpower to become more and to be accepted and to learn more, and for other people to come in and to like help lift us up.
Wow. Why do you think people have trouble being vulnerable?
I mean, we live in a world where it's like look at social media. It's like everybody is posting like their best lives. Nobody's like posting like I'm really struggling today. Nobody is like saying like nobody feels like they want to see or hear somebody's like sad sob story, but like that's just the way that like this culture is. And there are some artists in like the EDM and bass community that I love so much, because during their live sets, after playing a bunch of like electronic music, they will like have like this meditative space where like they'll have words on the screen that say it's okay to not be okay, like talk to your friends, like be vulnerable, all this stuff. And like the plur community, peace, love, unity, and can't remember the last one, but it's like I gravitate towards the bass community because it's not just like dope music, but it's also there's this energy around like love, acceptance, and unity. And it's just kind of changing the way that we approach being vulnerable, like not being okay, like sharing your feelings and knowing that you're not alone. And I think just like what you're saying, like creating a space for people to share that and to feel comfortable to share that, because there's also like the internal, like I'm afraid to express how I'm feeling because like I'm worried I'm not going to be accepted or I'm not going to be loved or whatever it is. And so that's like its own fear to overcome.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with sharing art too. It's just a different form of vulnerability. It's like a scary thing to like let yourself out, to like be vulnerable. To it's just like this is who I am. And like everybody at the end of the day wants to be loved and accepted and feel like they're part of a community. And if they the fear is that if I truly express myself, what if I don't feel loved and accepted? That means I'm going to be ostracized, or I'm not going to be part of a community. I'm going to be alone and I'm going to die. I feel like that's kind of like there was one practice we did together. It was like the 7 levels deep,
Yeah.
where you ask yourself why 7 times of like, why are you afraid? And then like I would say, well, I'm afraid because like I might not be accepted. Well, why do you feel like you're not going to be accepted? And you just go down and down and down, and then you find the core belief that you're telling yourself. And at the end of the day, it's just like a fear of death or a fear of like non-acceptance. But you don't have to live through life scared. You can live like you live life with a sense of courage, and courage isn't an absence of fear. It's moving forward with fear inside of you. And like I guess like the last quote, or the quote that I'll share, which has been huge for me the past like couple months, is by Terence McKenna. It's Nature Loves Courage. So I'm just going to read this really quick.
Please do.
Okay. Nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick, and this is what all of the teachers and philosophers who really counted and who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering that it's a featherbed. And so courage of sharing yourself, of taking that leap of faith, of doing what you want to do in life, of following your dharma, it is a scary feeling because you feel like you're jumping into this deep, dark abyss where it's like, I could die. But when you jump and you take that leap of faith, the universe is going to catch you. Blessings are going to happen. People are buying my surfboards, and every time people are buying, I'm increasing my pricing, and it's just happening organically and naturally. New opportunities are unfolding. The universe is watching over each and every one of us. I am not special. We are all children of the universe, and we all have the capability of believing in ourselves to become everything that we can become. But it all starts with the decision and the act of taking that leap of faith, which we all have to do individually, and that takes courage.
I love how all that beautifulness just came from vulnerability too, and that was awesome. I'm sure the listeners just appreciated that last couple minutes. But back to the 7 levels deep, I've noticed when I've been doing that live on the calls, because I still do that a lot when someone is really struggling with something and they're trying to understand the why. I just go 7 levels deep with them live on the call now with DreamState, and the best thing is I've noticed that not just the person I'm doing it with is having a breakthrough. The people listening are having breakthroughs too. Just being in the energy field, which is crazy. They're like, oh my God, when Jacob was talking about the 4th level, I started to realize that I was related and I had a breakthrough as well. So just being around that vulnerability energy, you can also have a breakthrough, which is very profound.
Honestly, and I think that's one thing that I am truly blessed that I experienced in high school. There's a teacher I went to an all-boys Jesuit high school, and there's a big focus on like retreats and spirituality and all of this like it's like religion in a way, but the Jesuits, their belief was founded on these meditations by this guy who went into a cave and meditated, found a connection with nature, and like it's essentially what was preached to us was find your own sense of faith. Don't believe everything that the Catholic Church is saying, but like go do what you want to do, and just believe in something. And
Pretty cool.
there was one teacher in particular who he had like a men's group where he would pick 12 students every year, and then he would ask them to be a part of it's called grief, which stands for greater respect in every friend. And every Monday night we would meet at the school. We'd go up to one of the like the Jesuit space rooms, and we'd just sit around a big couch in a circle, and we would just talk about feelings. And I was like 16, 17, 18, and there was like one teacher and 11 other peers, and if somebody was talking about like their parents divorcing or a breakup that they had, or somebody's dad got diagnosed with cancer, or talking about like religion or whatever it is, it's just like allowing vulnerability to be the standard, especially for men, because
Yeah.
like I feel like in this society, like men have to be a certain way, and like showing and expressing emotions is not, or hasn't in the past been like associated with being a man. But that's something that I got exposed to at a very young age as I'm developing, and that's something that I carry with me everywhere. And the fact that you're doing that with the dream state, it's just showing people that you can be vulnerable and you can learn something from somebody else sharing their vulnerability. And so just creating that to be a standard, like that's what you're doing now, and like I appreciate that tremendously, and I think the world just needs more of that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm noticing when the men that come in we have like as men this thick skin that we need to portray to society, but we can really be as much more beneficial to society when we can kind of unravel that and soften up a little bit and maybe understand femininity a little bit more and tap into that if we're thinking of the yin and the yang, tap into the more feminine side a little bit, and we don't always need to be this hardcore rock on the outside. Yes, we need to be men. It's why we're born men. But a really powerful man is a vulnerable man, from what I've seen.
very much so.
We started doing breakout sessions as well, which I recommend anybody who has like a community or a group of brothers, and females can be part of this too, where if you're out with the boys and maybe you want a night where it's just like, hey, let's do some personal development instead of just like shooting the shit, and breaking into groups of like 3 or 4 and being more intimate and just going around and kind of just talking, I find has been very valuable with the dream state. We do that with goals, so we'll do breakout rooms, so it's not just one person talking with 12 people in the room, and it's just like, oh my god, it's been 40 minutes, I still haven't talked. It's allowed for more space to be able to come in and chime in when you want without like that many people being there. I found that to be very
Yeah,
effective and really transformative.
that's dope. Because like at the end of the day, everybody wants to be heard. Some days like someone have might not have anything to share, but most of the time like there is something that you can chime in on, and so like the ability for like more sharing is dope, and that's really cool.
I had a question I wanted to ask you, which I've been pondering lately. Do you think life, or maybe a season of life, has showed you more of who you are or more of who you are not?
Like a particular season of life, or
You can kind of take it how you want.
yeah. Um, I would say like the one that comes to mind was like my 3 years in the solar sales space. It showed me both what I'm capable of, but it also showed me what I'm not doing and what I'm ignoring and what I'm actually here to do.
Mm.
And so through that time, I learned incredible lessons and skills, and just developing my communication and learning how to like communicate with people, which is great. But I was also doing something that wasn't aligned with my deeper life purpose. And it affected my relationship with my girlfriend. It affected my relationship with my friends. I essentially ostracized myself from whatever life I was living to go on this like pursuit of making as much money as possible. And it fully sucked me into this mindset that was not aligned with a higher purpose of being a creative expression of the universe. Any creativity that I had would just come in spurts, but I would work so hard for like months straight that I would just hit a burnout stage. And during that burnout, I was like, I just want to create something. I just want to paint. I just want to make music. But it took hitting like rock bottom multiple times throughout that to really just get to a point of like, I keep hitting this low point. I don't have money. My clients are canceling their projects. It does not look hopeful. I'm stressed. Like I hit that multiple times. And the most recent time was in November of this past year. And I asked myself, I was like, what is the universe trying to show me through this? And I sat in a meditation where I went into an insanely deep trance. And there was like this window that opened in my heart, and I saw like a 7-year-old version of me like pop up through the window. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I have been ignoring you for so long. My inner child, like my creative partner, like my best friend, the person who like wants to go climb on the monkey bars and then grab a piece of paper and doodle like random photos all day. Like that's just like my creative source of energy, just the child within me. And I was just ignoring that for so long. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I am so sorry. Like basically going back in time and like talking to my younger self. And I was like, I am here to make sure that you feel safe to come out, because I can't create anything if my inner child is not with me. And so that entire 3-year span was losing myself in order to find myself again. And from there, like I realized that like I am not like with my relationship with my girlfriend, I was the breadwinner and she stayed at home and like took care of the cats. And I was like, okay, we're definitely not doing that. Like we are a partnership. We are not the traditional sort of route that we had to go. But we had to go through that to learn and understand that. I had to like go down this pursuit of money to realize that's not who I want to be or what I want in life. And so I would say that most recent season of life, which I'm now fully exited from, was one of the greatest teachers, because it has propelled me forward in this state of like, I paint every day. Every day I do something creative. I don't care what it is, whether it's cleaning a surfboard, painting on a surfboard, playing guitar, doodling in my notebook, or posting on Instagram, like what I've been doing or whatever it is. Like I am fully devoted and committed to the creative life, whatever that looks like and however it's going to unfold in my life. But the affirmations that I say every day, it's like right under me. It's like, my purpose is to create. I deserve to live a life of divine creativity. There's a divine plan of goodness for me and my work. My creativity heals myself and others. Doors of opportunity open as I follow my purpose. As I embody my highest self, the universe blesses me. My dreams come from God, and God has the power to achieve them. As I move towards my dreams, I move towards my divinity. I openly receive the gifts sent to me from the universe. The universe and God are unlimited and infinite in nature. Everything I am and all that is comes from this limitless source, and I do not place infinity into a box. Like it's just, it goes on. I say this every day, like over and over. Like I've got it like pretty much fully memorized. Like, and when I'm in the cold plunge, I will like say it to myself, like after I breathe, you know, it's like I say these things in like the most pure state of presence, and like things are just happening. And it's a beautiful thing. And like, I would rather be pinching for pennies, following my dharma, following my purpose, than living a life completely dissatisfied with $1 million in my bank account. I know what that feels like, but I had to go through that to know that that's not what I want. So.
Yeah. call it dharmic law, but I can almost assure you that you're not going to be pinching pennies, my friend. Something's going to click for you. It's already clicking, but in a big, big way. Something serious is going to click for you, and I know that because I truly see it. You're in your dharma, and it's bleeding out, and it's beautiful to see.
Have you heard the Jim Carrey story? He's very tapped in, but he told the story, I think it was on the Oprah Winfrey show, where he wrote a check to himself for like $10 million or something, and it was from the universe to Jim Carrey for acting services provided or something, and then like a year later he got a $10 million check for doing like Dumb and Dumber or something like that.
Yeah.
So Jim Carrey can do it, anybody can do it. He's not anything special. He just like believed in himself, and he believed in the process. And so on my little manifestation wall, I wrote like a check to myself for $100,000 for a Grateful Dead surfboard, the one that I'm working on right now. And it's from the universe to Christian McSweeney for a Grateful Dead surfboard painting for $100,000. And I have no idea how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And I just know it. I believe it. And what's crazy is I had this dream for this surfboard, and I had met another artist who is unbelievably talented, makes the dopest clothing. And I bought one of his jackets from him, and I told him about this dream, and he said, you know what's crazy enough? I'm going to Shakedown Street for the Dead & Company in Las Vegas on April 17th, and I'm going to be selling my clothing there. But if you get the surfboard finished before then, I will bring it and I will put like a price tag on it. If somebody buys it, like, there you go. And so that came out of the blue, out of nowhere. And so it's like, had I not been vulnerable, had I not shared that, had I not had the urge to go connect with another artist or follow this dream that I had before I was going to sleep about painting this, like, who knows? But this was all coming together. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'm excited to see that come.
And if it doesn't happen, it's the same thing. It's like high hopes, low expectations. If it doesn't happen, like, I'm not going to be like upset. I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm this money's mine. Like, I'm going to make it. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But either way, like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And it's not the means to an end. It's just the creative process. And I'm having like a time and a half painting this thing. It's almost done, and it looks insane. It's so sick.
I'm excited to see it. It kind of reminds me of also when it's time for you to release it will be the time, because maybe in Vegas won't be the time for it to release Christian McSweeney's hands. Maybe you need some more energy with it. And it reminds me of this story of Kevin Trudeau. Kevin Trudeau had a house in Los Angeles, and he wanted to sell the house, so he put it on the market, but something intuitionally was like, no, it's not the right time. And all of his accountants and real estate agents like, no, it's the right time. You're going to get top dollar for it now. And nobody bought it. And he's like, take it off the market. Like, no, we need to keep it on the market. We need to keep it on the market. It's like, no, my intuition's saying take it off. So take it off. That's it. Done. We're not talking about it anymore. And then a year later, some big Hollywood director was in town, drove by the house, saw it, and was like, I need this house. And he paid double. He paid double for the house.
You hear stories like that all the time, and it's just a matter of making your own story and believing that you have the capability to make your own story, allowing the mystery to unfold. Like, anything can happen. Anything is possible. Like, I know you're a huge fan of McConaughey. Like, one of his like least favorite words that he never uses is like, what is it? Can't, impossible, whatever it is. Like,
unbelievable.
Yeah, it is believable. Just believe it. Do it. You know?
With your life now, and would you say that you're living in your dharma?
I'm getting there. I'm a lot more on the path now than I ever have been. And I've never given painting a chance, and I've been painting for like 15 years. And it feels really good to be on this path right now. I know there's so much more out there for me, but I'm just taking it step by step. I don't know where the road is going to take me, but I know I'm on the road, and that's like what's most important. So
How can our listeners find your paintings and find you?
Right now, I'm just on Instagram and TikTok. It's just at Christian McSweeney. And soon I'm going to be dropping a website. It'll come in time, just going at my own pace. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
And I'm curious on this. If someone has like it's like, hey, I have an idea for a surfboard that I want. Do you take requests, or is this all creative coming from your spirit?
It's a mix of both. So I post on social media. Most of the boards I do like are just my ideas, but some people reach out and they say, "Hey, do you do custom work?" And so I get on the phone with them, and the past couple have been really fun because a couple of my friends said, like, "I'm going through this right now. I want a painting that's gonna kind of represent like the growth that I'm experiencing through this time in my life."
Wow.
And so like I get to use my creativity to like come up with an idea, and then I surprise them with it. And so that to me is a super fun process. It's more fun than if somebody says like, "I want this," and this like in particular. It's not a tattoo, but it can be. And so like I do take requests, but I like bringing in my own like creativity and thinking juice into like bringing something to life, because that makes me excited.
Mm.
And it's not feeling like I'm doing work for somebody else. It's like I get to express myself to help somebody else or to bring their vision to life or whatever it is. So,
Wow.
but yes, I do take requests.
We're gonna need a DreamState podcast surfboard in the future once I have somewhere I
There
can
you
put
go.
it.
There you go, man.
Last question I have for you is it's more of a request. So we had an absolute amazing time biking 130 kilometers. I think of that moment and the energy and just how beautiful that was. And I'm in this stage of my life where I'm really enjoying endurance activities, and I want to do one with you. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna do a triathlon? Are we gonna do an ultra together? What do you want to do? I'm gonna hold you to it now. I'll put you on the spot.
Oh man, it's crazy you say that because I haven't ran in months, and today I like put my shoes on and I ran. You know how it's gonna like just kick your ass, but you do it anyways. And so I like accepted that it was gonna be tough, but I did like 4.5 miles. It like wasn't that bad, and I was like, I need to continue to run. So I've done the Ironman. I'm not doing it again. Um, I I'm not doing it again. No chance. I'd swallowed too much lake water.
Oh God.
But I would say the only thing I've done 4 marathons and I've done an Ironman race, and I think what would be next would be like a crazy hike somewhere, like not Everest. That's way too nuts. And I know you've done Kilimanjaro already, but like doing
I
something
actually
like that
haven't
would
done
be sick.
Kilimanjaro.
Really,
I've been there, but I haven't done it. I want to.
I would do Kilimanjaro.
Mm. Maybe a 2026 thing or 2027, because that's something I think we'd want to plan out so it can be epic.
Yeah, I would be super, super down to do a big hike like that. That would be dope.
That would be dope. All right, brother. Well, Kilimanjaro it is, or something similar. We'll talk. Maybe I'll throw some Nepal mountains at you too, because I've been curious on those mountains.
Ooh. I'm open to whatever, just as long as it's not a 50K or an Ironman race.
Well, guys, that'll wrap us up. Thank you so much for listening to the DreamState Livin Podcast with my man Christian. It was just an absolute blast with you today, Christian. Thanks for being on the pod, man. Really appreciate you.
Much love, bro. Appreciate you, bro.